What's up, everyone? Welcome back to this 15th episode of Draft Day Dynasties. I'm C. Jackson Cowart, the community manager here at Wolverine Studios, and as always, I appreciate you joining us for our weekly streaming series showing off Draft Day Sports College Basketball 2022 and all the latest releases at Wolverine Studios. If you haven't seen any of our previous 14 episodes, you can catch up on all of those on our YouTube channel, or you can catch us live every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the official Wolverine Studios Twitch channel. As you may have noticed, if you're joining us live, we're actually an hour ahead of schedule to avoid conflicting with tonight's NBA draft at 8 p.m. Eastern, so be sure to stick around with us through the end of this episode, and we'll be sure to sign off just before the festivities begin so that you can enjoy the NBA draft at home. But we've got our own prospects to take care of in this episode. We'll be finishing up the recruiting cycle for our second season at Hawaii, and hopefully setting our rotation near the end if we have time for that as well. I know the chat might be a little bit lighter this time with the early start, and I think CBGM, the biggest online multiplayer league for this game, might be streaming their Final Four live right now as well. So if you are joining us in the chat, I really appreciate you joining us here, and I'd love for you to let us know what you think about what recruits we should lock down, how our rotation's shaking out, which players you think we should feature in our rotation. Or just any thoughts that you have about the stream, this game, or Wolverine Studios in general. So let's go ahead and fire this up here. As I mentioned before, we are nearing the end of the recruiting cycle. We only have one guy right now, which is not exactly what I was hoping for when this started. But, beggars can't be choosers. We're happy to have Sean Kent aboard. I may have said some disparaging things about Sean Kent in the last episode in terms of him not really being up to snuff for Hawaii basketball. But you know what? I take all those things back. I love Sean Kent, love his family, excited for him to join the Spartans. But he's really all we have right now. So let's just go ahead and open up this recruiting screen here so that you can see what I'm talking about in terms of who we have available and who we've locked in. So like I said, Sean Kent, he really does have a good name, but that's probably the most exciting thing about his game. But local kid, right, out of Hawaii, 3.1 GPA, so not going to have to worry about that. I do like that he's a pretty proficient inside scorer, tremendous work ethic, according to his basketball coach. And look, he's an A- on defense. So we're building this team defense forward, if you will. The offense will come, but defense is really what we're trying to emphasize with this Hawaii team. It's what we tried to emphasize last year, and unfortunately it ended up being our undoing at the end. So obviously that was a bummer, and anything we can do to try to reverse our fate there. So hopefully Sean Kent will be somebody that defensively we can rely on, and if he can score well enough inside, 6'6", he's a little undersized, but that's okay for the offensive set we're running. And then in the chat, Bill says that he thinks that the CBGM Final Four starts sometime between now and 5 p.m., so that'd be 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And he says if you still have some money left and some warm interest, you can live scout some during the season. So that's an interesting point. We don't necessarily have to nail everything down right now. We don't have to blow through our remaining budget just because we have it. If there's some in-season recruiting to do, it could be fruitful to do that. But if we click out of Sean Kent here, as you see, we only have $1,300, so really, when it comes to out-of-state recruiting, which we've pretty much mined our in-state guys here, let's sort by overall, trust our coach's scouting assessment here just a little bit, and you notice, Mark Jepsen is somebody out of Hawaii that, maybe we'd be interested in. John Johnson, maybe, kind of a lesser recruit. And then most of these other guys are either out of state, or if they're in state and they're warm, we got a C+ grade on them. So I'm not entirely sold on this crop, but maybe somebody will pop out of here. And then Breeze hopping in the chat as well, saying watch the NBA Finals be more beefing, the NBA Draft rather, be more beefing than Jackson's recruiting. Hey, the NBA Draft is full of drama, so you never know. You never know what might happen there. And then Bill Dozer, you two, by the way, absolute MVPs. You're the goats of the chat here. Bill's saying Jepsen might be worth a live scout once a month. So that's not a bad point here because it is super cheap to do. Obviously, we can't do it right now. But if you look at the dates, you'll see that the next time we'll be able to do some live scouting. So you can see over here on the right, what are you able to do during these different periods. the evaluation period is when you could do live scouting, and we'd be able to do that in November. So, it'd be nice if we could get everything settled before then, but I'm not really seeing that many recruits that are really jumping off the screen here. So maybe that's something we could do, kind of keep him in our back pocket. The only problem there is just look how many power forwards and centers we have already. So we have these 2 power forwards that are both young. We have 4 centers, 3 of them that'll be with us next year, presumably, and then Sean Kent coming in as a power forward as well. So we are very front court heavy. To that note, looking at this board, I asked you guys last week if there were any prospects here, any recruits that you could isolate and see was maybe worth our time to recruit. And Bill reached out to me and mentioned Ronald Graves, and he's right. I've had my eye on Ronald Graves since the beginning to some extent. He's a 3-star guy. Obviously, averaging a double-double is very impressive in college for somebody that's this far down the board. He is out of state, which is going to make it expensive for us to recruit him, but it doesn't really look like anybody else is beating us too much there. He does have 3 teams that he's hot on, but he hasn't pulled the trigger on any of them. So it makes you wonder whether we would have a shot there. The bummer, obviously, his playing time is going to be a tough pitch for us to make to him. And if we're pitching location, you'd have to think that Washington can beat us there. The other thing that's a little bit concerning about Graves is the athleticism is lacking, which in a zone you would like to have decent athleticism. It's a little more important for your wings than your bigs, obviously, because the big in a zone is just kind of camping in the middle there. You don't need them to be too athletic. But I would like to see that a little bit higher. Same with the shot blocking. So we're clearly not going to be getting impact defense from Ronald Graves. It doesn't look like he'd be a liability, though, and that is encouraging. And when it comes to passing, he's a C. Average 1.7 assists. That's pretty standard for a center. C-grade passing. And in this Princeton offense, we're really going to want our bigs to be able to be efficient passers. So I am interested in Ronald Graves to some extent. I don't know if I want to spend $750 to bring him onto campus. I think we could probably save our money there for something mid-season, even like Bill mentioned, just kind of keeping an eye on some guys so we could do some live scouting or shoring up the gaps in state. And of course, we don't have to fill these scholarship spots. We could fill this in the transfer period, which is probably going to be maybe a more fruitful option for us considering who's actually left on the board. But Ronald Graves is really interesting, and I do think that of the players left, just if you sorted by overall, right, he's the 4th best player here, and his stats suggest that maybe he's even a little bit higher. So if we're looking for a big, I think Graves is an interesting option, and then Mark Jepsen is in state, so he would be very cheap to try to recruit here. Location is big for him. He's a good inside scorer. He's a good defender. He's a good scorer overall, actually. And, I really, there's not too many holes to pick in his game in terms of what we'd use him for, except for, obviously, rebounding. It's a bit concerning, and you notice that in his stat line as well. 5 rebounds a game for a power forward. You'd hope to see a little bit more. So, in looking at this board right now, I think, maybe we go back to sorting by overall, or we could even use our gold report here, right? We paid for it for a reason, and see who's left on here. And the gold report says that Jason Rivera is the best guy on the board. Hard for me to disagree, right? He's the highest rated guy. We've had our eyes on Jason Rivera from the beginning out of Alaska. Now, a lot of teams are hot on him, but at least we know that we're on the list to some extent. Tremendous work ethic, good outside shooter. The athleticism is not there, but the defense is. So I think he's somebody that we just go ahead and offer a scholarship. I think we offer it, do a cold call scholarship sort of deal. Maybe we even host him. There is some interest there. If we host him, that's essentially us saying that he's our guy, right? That he's the one that we're putting in all the effort to, because we don't have enough money to host 2 guys. We just simply don't have it. So we have 1 host left in our back pocket. And he seems like as good a bet as any. We could still chase Mark Jepsen. We've already hosted him, so we don't have to worry about that. Ronald Graves, we wouldn't be able to host him, but we just don't have as prominent of a need at center. And then you look at the rest of these guys, they're either front court guys or you have somebody like Maddox who's warm on us, but I'm just not sure how warm I am on him, especially with that D on defense. D plus ball handling. I mean, this is, we're in the running, as you would expect we would be. And so maybe there's a scholarship there, but I don't think that we're going to spend any money trying to recruit him. So this is what the premium report says is the best guys left on the board. And I'm hard-pressed to disagree. So I think there's not a lot to do here, obviously, in the quiet period. It's quiet for a reason. You can't scout live. We've already hosted most of these players, and if we haven't, we don't have the money for it. And there's no more visits left for a long, long time. So this is basically just calling and offering. So I think that's what we do with Jason Rivera here. I think we call, we get all the information we can about him. Not that we really need it, but just to sort of generate some interest on his end. Oh, well, all right. I guess that's how interested he is in us. But that's fine. I think we offer this scholarship to Jason Rivera. If he accepted, it would be an absolute godsend. I don't think he will. I think it's a pretty distant shot that we're actually going to get this guy, but let's go ahead and do it. So, offer Jason Rivera a scholarship. That's one. Done. I wouldn't mind offering Ronald Graves a scholarship. I think he's among the best players left. I do really like his size. I know we have some issues in terms of having too many centers, but look, if one of them pops off, right, that would be great. That would be a success if we have a starter that comes out of this mix. Even if we have a bunch of backups too, like that's fine. We're just trying to get impact guys here at Hawaii that we can actually rely on. So let's go ahead and offer Ronald Graves a scholarship as well. And then we do have one left to offer, but I'm not entirely sure that I see somebody that I think would be worth offering to. Maybe Mark Jepsen, because of that B defense, that B plus scoring, that A inside shooting. A little concerned about just how poor of a rebounder he is, and the fact that some of just, if you're looking for the little things, right, the kind of intangible parts, just can he add a little something elsewhere? No, not a good free throw shooter. Can't dribble. Can't shoot from the outside, can't block shots, can't rebound. Starting to wonder what training program he was in middle school and high school. But, well, I guess we have our own in-state educators to blame here. But speaking of in-state, we know that location is big to him. So he should be somebody that we could bring along. If we offered a scholarship, we could really shoot up the board. So it's compelling. His size, just in terms of, his 213 weight. It's kind of this, you don't see that many tweeners in college, because usually if they have any level of size, they're going to be okay down low, but he can't rebound and he can't block shots, and he's just not enough of a wing to play on the outside. So, maybe that's okay in the Princeton offense. Maybe that's okay in a zone defense. But I might hold off on the scholarship for now. I think maybe there's a bit more that we can learn. Maybe we can watch a little more film on him. Watch some film on some of our other in-state guys here with Lawrence Maddox. Lever Shaw, somebody we've kind of flirted with throughout this recruiting period. Shamari Evans is an in-state guy. So we'll just spend a little bit of money there. And then I think if we're serious about this Jason Rivera thing, we need to consider hosting it. I don't think we're going to be saving money for the contact period in March. I mean, maybe, but, I don't think that the guy that we're going to be locking in here is going to be available in March. And if he is, you'd have to think maybe that's more of like an international situation or maybe outside of our region. So I'm okay spending the money now and then just hoping, right? Hoping it works. So I think perhaps we do it. I think we take him on a visit and we hope it goes well. And then we have enough money to just scout some guys live that are in state and see where that goes. So there we go. Oh, Jason Rivera said no. All right, well, that answers the concerns that we had. He's not even going to come visit. My guess is maybe Ronald Graves wouldn't come visit either. So I guess we'll be saving that $1,200. Maybe we'll use that another time. because nobody ever really wants to come visit Hawaii. I don't know why. I'm still absolutely baffled that nobody wants to take an all-expenses-paid trip to Hawaii. Makes me wish that I was 17 years old and had some level of basketball skills so that I could be going on free trips around the country. But alas, is not to be. So we offered those scholarships. Let's go ahead and go back to our full list here. All regions. And sort by our scouts overall. And just see. I don't think we need to watch any film on Rivera, because we already offered a scholarship, so we don't really need to learn anything else. But I am curious about John Johnson. Now, he's a B- in terms of what we've scouted, but he's a 1-star guy overall. So, there's a disconnect there. Either we're wrong, or the overall scouts are wrong. So let's see. Let's look a little bit under the hood here. So he's super, super athletic. Great outside shooter, great passer. He can't score and he can't play defense. But the athleticism helps on the defensive end if we're going to be playing in a zone. And he said as recently as last week that he was considering our program. Looks like we're number 3 on the list. It's a bit of a kind of a late bloomer situation, I guess. Or not late bloomer, but kind of late to our board. He wasn't in the magazine. He's been rising up the national ranks a bit. He values location a lot, and he's close, he's in Honolulu. He's in our backyard. So this is interesting to me. I don't really think we're going to lose him this week. So maybe let's just watch a little more film on this guy. But that might be our 3rd scholarship. I also think Eric Sides has a chance to be our 3rd scholarship. We need a point guard. He's among the only point guards on the board right now that we would really have any sort of interest in. And we're on his list as well. We're on the radar. So that's good. And you see he's a good outside shooter. He's a good defender. So that's decent. Not really holding out too much hope that even our scouts are even right here because he's a 1-star guy. But maybe there's something there. So talk to him about playing time. See if that's something of interest. It's not. Okay, we can go ahead and end this call because that's all that we can really offer to him is playing time. And then let's go to somebody else that we've offered a scholarship to. So we've offered it to Rivera, we've offered it to Kent, and then we've offered it to Graves. So let's make sure. Have we talked to Graves fully? We haven't. Let's just build some interest here with Ronald. Oh man, Ronald here. All right, team prestige, doesn't care. Education, click. Happens a lot. Anytime I ask kids about their grades, they just stop texting back. I'm not their teacher. I don't care. I actually hope they don't care about their grades. That would be the best thing they could tell me. But all right, so we still have some time left on the phone here to talk to some potentially interested recruits. Maybe let's watch some more film on Wade Russell. He's another guy that is in our crosshairs here, and then Justin McKnight, just because he is a point guard. Same thing with David Forrest here. He's a point guard, and our list is pretty small at this point. So let's watch some film on David Forrest, and then I guess it couldn't hurt to use our last film on somebody, but not really seeing it. So let's save $20 here, and let's try to talk to somebody else on the phone. So I'm thinking maybe John Johnson. If we really think that we might be going for this guy, let's just fill out the board here. Coach discipline. All right, well, I'm not disciplining him right now. I'm just asking what he thinks about it, but he doesn't want to talk, so that's fine. And then Levershaw, another guy on the wing. We have a B- grade on him. So maybe worth learning a little bit there. So we'll talk to him about playing time. We'll talk to him about coach discipline, team prestige. And we're hitting the end of our clock this week. So we'll go to Lawrence Maddox here, in-state guy, and just learn a little bit more about him. There we go. All right. So I feel good about that. We've used almost all of our film opportunities here. We're not hosting anybody because they all said no. Anybody that's worthwhile is going to say no. We already know that. We've seen that all summer. And we used all of our time on the phone. So I think that's pretty solid. Let's advance here and let's see if we get lucky. I'm not expecting it. I definitely don't have my hopes high for this. But we'll see. We'll see if maybe we luck out here and somebody decides to have a surprise commitment. And we look right here. Surprise, surprise. There is a commitment, but it's not to us. Jason Rivera is going to New Mexico State. So I guess good thing we didn't devote too much time there. But we can go ahead and drop him off the call list and the watch list now. Jason Rivera is dead to us. I repeat, DEAD to us. All right. So kind of interesting to look at our watch list here because I've already written some guys off of this. But I think we'll probably just leave that there because we'll go to the call list. It's a little bit more streamlined. And you look, Lawrence Maddox. What's going on here? Jumping all the way to the top. So let's see. That's a pretty big bump for that guy. Jumping in the rankings here. When you look, I'm still concerned about his defense, but it does look like he's pretty good at generating steals. You wouldn't know from his rating, but 2.4 steals a game in high school. He is a knockdown shooter, which is always good to have on really any team. And he's from Hawaii, and he values location. So, if we dropped a scholarship for Lawrence Maddox, it wouldn't be the worst thing we've ever done. He's down there in the rankings, but it's right around that Sean Kent range. So we've already acknowledged that we're okay, offering to guys at that level. And in terms of players that we've already offered, right now it's just Kent and Graves. We're waiting on Graves to hear what he says about that, and we can check our inbox, but I'm pretty sure I know this is just from Jason Rivera. So that's interesting. Lawrence Maddox, especially because we need shooting guards so badly, he really could be on the list. So if we're sorting how we normally do here, all right, so there's Maddox right there. In-state guy, 2.4 steals. That's among the highest on the board right now. What have we learned about him and John Johnson? John Johnson, we watched more film on him. He's still athletic, and he's still a good outside shooter. And he's considering us at the very least. And then you look over at Lawrence Maddox. Good outside shooter, he's athletic, and he's considering us. So this is starting to come together a bit. If we could get two in-state guys on the wing, which is really what we need. We need shooting guards. We do need point guards, but I don't think we're going to solve that right now. And if we do, it's going to be pretty expensive to recruit. And look, none of them are really that interested in us. Eric Sides has some level of interest. I do like to see it. We're in his top 5. And his ratings really are not too bad. He's a good outside shooter, good passer. Eric Sides might be somebody that's worth our time and effort. So let's watch some more film on him. Watch some film on John Johnson. Watch some film on Lawrence Maddox. I don't want to lose these guys, but I don't think we will. I don't think they're going to just bail, especially these in-state guys who are so big on location. And then we have Mark Jepsen here, right? That's a 3-star guy. We don't just want to ignore him just for positional reasons. But I'm concerned about some things in his profile. And he didn't stand out at the Las Vegas Review, which, granted I wasn't necessarily expecting him to at this ranking, but that is a little bit concerning when you see that. At least it doesn't give us any indication that he's a diamond in the rough there. So this is tough because we only are going to have 2 scholarships to give out. And I would say there's maybe, 4 guys at this point that are probably that we haven't already offered to that are kind of piquing my interest here. I would say it's Mark Jepsen, just because, he is a kind of a highly rated guy in state, not in love with his profile, but I think he could make an impact with us. And then Lawrence Maddox, John Johnson, and Eric Sides. So we watched film on them all. I think maybe let's learn a little bit more about them. Let's talk more to Eric Sides, because he's somebody that if we could get a point guard in here that is a good shooter and a good passer and a good defender, that's everything. That's what we need. So let's talk a little more to him and see maybe what he's valuing in his decision on where to go to school. Looks like conference prestige isn't super important to him. Facilities hung up the phone, so I never love to see that. He's somebody we could try to bring in for a visit, especially because everybody else that we're targeting at this point is an in-state guy. So maybe we do that. He's going to say no. We already know that, so we're prepared for disappointment, but let's just try it. Nope. All right. That's a no from Eric Sides, but that's fine. We can live with that. And then Lever Shaw. I mean, we're probably too late on him. There's a lot of schools there, and none of them are Hawaii. We can watch some film, but I don't think it's going to do us much good. So let's call some of these players that we are more interested in. Let's start with John Johnson. Let's finish this out with him. Talk about coach discipline. Man, they really do not want to talk about discipline. I guess that probably tells me everything I need to know. And then Lawrence Maddox. Should we start with discipline with him too? Let's do it, just for the laughs. Yeah, there we go. All right. All these guys think that I'm, a really hard-nosed discipline coach. I'm really not. I'm just trying to, let them in on the secret here. But they don't want to listen, so that's fine. So Sides doesn't want to talk to us. John Johnson, Maddox doesn't want to. I guess we could kind of round it out with Jepsen and see what the deal is here. So playing time matters somewhat to him. Oh, there it is. The curse of coach discipline. All right. Guess I'll never mention it to any recruit again. But, all right, we'll watch a little more on Mark Jepsen, see if we're missing anything there. Maybe some on, we already have on Vershaw. And, a little more on Wade Fats Russell there. And these point guards. But, again, I'm not really seeing anything that's making me think they're anything better than the C+ we thought they were before. Yeah, and this is rough defensive rating for Justin McKnight, which is really concerning, and not much else to save him there. And then David Forrest. David Forrest is interested in us, and I'm a little interested in his profile as well. But his stats in high school are not super compelling. And, he does have that trifecta that I value. But the defense is a little lacking. We'll come back around on David Forrest if we need. So, I think we advance again, because I don't think I'm ready to hand out the scholarships yet. I just don't know what direction I want to go with these guys, and they're not going to make their decisions quite yet, or at least I don't anticipate they will. So I think we can just advance here and roll the dice for one more week. So as we're coming back through this week, and what is it? It's going to be October 23rd, so the season is only a couple weeks away. And, yep, just like we thought. Nobody has made any decisions yet, so that's good. So we'll sort by overall, sort by this here, and let's see if we've learned anything. Mark Jepsen looks like a pretty similar profile from what we knew before. Lawrence Maddox, same deal, but he's warm on us. He's definitely warm on us. The defense is still a concern, but I do like the way that he played in high school. Racking up 2.4 steals a game, almost a block a game. You like to see that, especially from someone as small as this guy. So, and he can pass, which I don't mind. And then John Johnson, man, it is super compelling to have that combination of athleticism and shooting. The rest of his game, there's some work to be done for sure. But you get those 2.5 steals a game from him too. It's a lot to consider. And then you have Eric Sides, who we scouted again, and he actually dropped to a C. And I'm wondering why. Looks like maybe, it's a similar profile, but I think we were seeing a little bit more in terms of passing and ball handling, and we're not seeing that now. So he might just be kind of a primary shooter, and considering that he's an out-of-state guy, and the assists aren't terribly high, I think maybe we just target a point guard in the transfer period and roll the dice here with some of these other guys. So let's take Sides off of our board now, temporarily. Looks like David Forrest, I don't know if he jumped up the board. Maybe he did, because that is a very compelling 1-2-3. A+ shooter, if that's true, that's pretty interesting. But 1.5 steals and low defensive ratings doesn't totally pique my interest yet. And then Justin McKnight, same thing. I'm not really seeing what I want to see there. So I think it might be time to offer some of these guys some scholarships. They're going to be making a decision in a couple weeks here. And I think maybe we take a shot, especially with them being in-state. So Lawrence Maddox, I think that might be what we want to see. We need wings bad. We don't have them. we're going to be really up against it if we use our scholarships on other players, can't get in the transfer period. That will be very concerning. So I think it might be him and John Johnson. I like what I'm seeing here. And I think we do it. So I'm going to offer a scholarship here to... Yeah, man, it is tough, but I think we do it. We're getting those B grades on him. Got to trust our coaching staff. Trust the evaluations they're seeing, and we just don't need a power forward. So let's do it. First, let's talk to them a bit. Try to fill out our full interest with them. All right, well, another call failed. John Johnson, talk about some conference prestige, talk about the dreaded coach discipline. Yeah, man, no one wants to talk about that, but that's fine. So we got where we needed to on those two. Ronald Graves, we already have this scholarship pending with him, so yep, that didn't work there either. All right, I think we do it. I think we offer to Lawrence Maddox, and I think we offer to John Johnson, and we hope. We hope that these two take our offer, or maybe we hope they don't, right? Maybe they're not the right players for us, but I think that's what we shoot for. And then let's see, Mark Jepsen. Try to talk to him a little bit more, learn a little more about him. There we go. Finally getting someone that's a little chatty. Look at that. Learned everything we could about Mark Jepsen. Talk maybe a little more about his family. Oh, look at that. He's a legacy guy. One of his parents went to Hawaii. Interesting. And we're on the list of candidates. All right. Not a bad call at all. Look at that. Nice. So Mark Jepsen is definitely somebody that we would have a shot at. We did just run out of scholarships, but that's okay. If one of those falls through, we can pick him up at power forward. Maybe we even revoke with Graves if we don't feel like that's going anywhere. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure it is because he doesn't really want to talk to us. Well, now we can learn a little more about him. There we go. But it doesn't really seem like we're climbing up the board here. So maybe next week we ask Graves if we're in the running. And if we're not, maybe we flip our scholarship over to Jepsen. And we build that perimeter around Hawaii that we've been talking about since the very beginning. So that works for me. I don't think there's any more film I need to see. Maybe we can watch some film on the guys we offer just in case we see something really concerning. And then watch a little more on Jepsen. Watch some on the mystery man, David Forrest, who is interesting to me. And I think we've seen enough on Eric's sides, but, you know, can't hurt to get a little more certainty there. So there we go. Let's go forward a week. We've offered all of our scholarships, and we can see if this is actually going to bear fruit this time. Also, just to break the fourth wall here, one of my cats vomited, and I'm currently watching the other one eat the vomit. So if you thought you were having a rough night, just imagine having to watch that with your own two eyes. Okay, so that is interesting. That is a wrench. Lawrence Maddox, who I thought would be a safe call here, cares a lot about location. He's from Hawaii. You know, we've been kind of in on him off and on from the beginning. And he said no. Committed to Cal Davis. We're fourth. So that's fine. We'll drop him off the call list. I'll keep him on the watch list just in case, but that's fine. Honestly, not even too bummed about that. Because that means we have a scholarship left. And we can see what we want to do with that. So let's go ahead and sort by the way we want to sort here. And see anything that we learned about Mark Jepsen. Not really seeing anything new, but I mean, he's a good scorer, man, and he's good on defense. You know, his parents went to Hawaii. Maybe he's just waiting for the scholarship offer. And you know, John Johnson, we're still waiting there, but that athleticism and shooting combo is really great. So I still feel good about having something extended to him. And then Wade Russell. You know, Wade Russell's waiting for the call from us, and I got to be honest, he does kind of fit this profile all around. You know, he's athletic, he can play defense, obviously a good shooter. It's interesting to see that B-level scoring from somebody that's a C+ overall. You don't see that often. But I think we hold off on offering there, and we check, is David Forrest as good as we thought? Yeah, man, he is. But I don't want to fall too in love with these ratings right here when the rest of the picture isn't painted to my liking. So let's do it. Let's offer Jepsen. Jepsen wants to play for us. You got to bring in talent, right? You never know what'll happen with transfers. Our front court could look completely different in a year. We brought in a transfer, right? So things can change. So I think we offer Mark Jepsen here. Is there anything we could learn? There's nothing left we could really learn. I'm curious to see where we rank in his mind. Want to chat about some things. Yeah, we're on the list, so that's it. And then, John Johnson, try to talk to him a little bit, see if we can get that discipline info. There it is. And then let's see, what does he think about us? What do you think of our school? And then family. Yeah, I think we expected that. And then come down to old Ronald, see if we can finish the deal here, but he hasn't really been letting us do that. All right. Want to chat about things, ask about your family. What do you think of our school? Right now, you're not on my list. All right. So that's kind of concerning. And maybe sort of what we expected. So we'll probably have a scholarship left when it's all said and done if Ronald Graves says no. But we'll give the man his time to say no. And for now, we'll offer this to Mark Jepsen. I feel pretty good about that. I think, I didn't really want to offer it early on because we do have other needs, but those needs are kind of falling apart. These players aren't super interesting. And look, Mark Jepsen's a baller, right? He can play. So you just got to go for talent and figure it out later. Maybe even if we're stuck with bigs, we don't have to run a Princeton offense. We could run maybe a triangle offense or something, right? And rotate in 4 bigs regularly. Run the offense through them. Have them be really aggressive on defense, filter them through. I mean, there's different things you can do. So we have that extended out to Jepsen. That's all of our scholarships out. There's not really anybody left that I want to talk to that I'm really that interested in learning anything about. Maybe Wade Russell. We can just figure out what his deal is with Conference Prestige if he's not going to be too coy about it. And then, number 1 on the list. Well, I think we already knew that about us and Wade Russell. Yeah, we did. So, all right, that's pretty decent. We'll talk to David Forrest a little bit and try to just nail down. So what do maybe talk about his family? Yeah, he doesn't want to talk about it. All right. So there we go. We are getting awfully close to the beginning of the season. So let's go ahead and hit advance here. And I think this will bring us up to not the beginning of the season, but I think the week before. I'll check the dates. I'm pretty sure that it is not the first week in November, but the second. And we'll see if we landed any prospects here after offering that out. We did not, but that's okay. What emails did we get? It's a little concerning. Don't like to see that many emails in my inbox. Yeah, we already knew that. Okay, so we're starting to get some scouting reports. So that is a sign that the season is coming. And then redshirt reminder. So let's go back to recruiting and just check the dates to see how much time we have left. But yeah, it looks like we just have this final week. So let's do it. Let's nail down this final week, and then we will be at the season start. So Mark Jepsen, we offered. It doesn't look like it moved anything, but I don't think it would show us right away. And we already know everything we need to know about him. He's already visited campus. Nothing to do there. That's fine. John Johnson, same deal. We have that scholarship out. Nothing left we need to do. Ronald Graves, we know everything that we need to know about this guy. He's not really that interested in us, but I don't see another player that's worth a scholarship at this point. So I think we can hold off there. Maybe hold off on film, save a little bit of budget for, like Bill mentioned earlier, maybe some live scouting on some in-state guys if we need. And that's probably pretty solid for recruiting. So let's flip over just in the last 10-15 minutes of this stream here. And let's start looking at our current roster, right? We're talking about the future. We're projecting in terms of what players we'll bring in later. But what about the guys we already have on board? So let's take a look at the roster right now and just refresh on who's here, what roles they can play, and kind of what we think about what the rotation might look like, which in turn will help us figure out who we want to redshirt. So the way that I like to do this personally is I like to sort by overall rating right here in terms of stars. It's not perfect. Anybody who's played this game for years knows that there is a bit of a fog in these ratings. Just because Victor Willis, for example, is a 3-star and Russ Hope is a 2.5-star does not mean that Victor Willis is better than Russ Hope. It just means that from the information that we have, that our coaches are telling us, we have a reason to believe he's better. I tend to trust that when I don't have stats to show me otherwise. But once I have some stats as tangible evidence, I do tend to lean on the stats more than I do the ratings. But coming into the season, especially with players progressing over the offseason, I trust the ratings first, and then I let the season stats and the results guide me the rest of the way. And to that point, when you're setting your rotation early in the year, what I like to do is I like to try some things out. I like to spread the minutes out a little bit, try out some different lineup combinations, and just see what works. I had a save I was doing on my own where I ran the whole season. I had some different combinations, and there was one quirky combination I had. It was a 3-guard lineup that just was killing it. Every single time they were on the court, they were outscoring the other team. The defense looked great, and I wouldn't have known that. Their ratings didn't really suggest to me that was going to be the right combination. And so near the end of the year, ahead of the postseason, I was able to switch it up and start running that 3-guard rotation more and see the benefits of that. I don't think I actually went far in the tournament because, my team wasn't actually talented enough to do so, but I maximized my chances of winning, right? So that's what I'm going to try to do here. So I like to sort by overall, and then I like to sort by position. And if you remember, whatever you sorted before your most recent sort, it'll be in that order. It's kind of a tiebreaker order, right? So we have our 4-point guards, and they're sorted by the 2 stars here and the 1 stars, the half stars here. So the other thing that I really value on this team, if you watch these streams, is defense. So I'm actually going to sort by defense, and then I'm going to sort by overall, and then I'm going to sort by position. So now you'll see Rick Tennell is above Craig Willis because they're both 2 stars, they're both point guards, but Rick Tennell is the better defender. So this kind of gives me an idea. It's not the same thing as a depth chart, but it gives me an idea just looking at a glance on who we have at what positions, and it's in the order of my lineup, of my rotation, so I see all these stars in the middle here. That gives me an idea. I'm pretty front court heavy, which I knew. I already knew that. I know that point guard is not the strongest position on the roster, so that actually makes it a little bit easier to set the rotation. And if you notice here, we're pretty much 2 deep at every spot. It's going to be kind of a simple rotation to set, I think. So whether we end up setting it in this episode or whether I do a little off-camera work, I don't think it'll make too much of a difference because this is really presenting itself, pretty straightforward. We have 2 point guard options that are worthwhile. We have 2 shooting guard options. We only have 2 shooting guards on the entire roster. We have 2 small forwards that are 2-star or better. Then we have 1 that's a 1.5-star. He's a freshman. I'm tempted to maybe redshirt him, if I don't think that he's going to make an impact right away. And especially with being weak at the wing next year, I wouldn't mind having 4 years of this guy actually being a producer. And then power forward, we only have 2 on the entire roster, makes it pretty easy. And center, we only have 2 that are worth really anything at all. Marcus Floyd is just simply not ready to play, and in fact, because of his potential here, that is a pretty easy decision for me to just go ahead and hit redshirt right there. So he'll be unable to play at any point during the season, but he will not lose a year of eligibility, and that is fine. So I'm going to go ahead and redshirt Marcus Floyd. Bill hopping in the chat again. He said, with Seattle U this past year in CBGM, I ran a 1 guard, 2 small forward, 2 center lineup. I think defense and scoring are the most important ratings. So a couple things to take from that. One, like Bill was mentioning, you can be creative with your positions, with your rotations. It doesn't have to be, all right, let me start 1 point guard, 1 shooting guard, 1 small forward. It's efficient that way. Your players, that's their natural position. So if that works out, great. Run a 1 through 5, everybody playing their normal spots. But the most important thing really is to get talent on the court and to get it, talent on the court that is actually cohesive with the other players. So if you have a bunch of players that are really good at passing and none of them are good at scoring, and you have one guy who's a decent scorer and maybe doesn't quite positionally fit in what you're trying to do, maybe find a way to get him in the starting lineup, because it's just going to be more efficient to have players on the court whose skill sets complement each other. So the other thing that Bill said here is scoring and defense is kind of the most important. I agree, absolutely. So let's do a quadruple sort here. Let's sort by scoring, let's sort by defense, sort by overall, and then sort by position. So now you see it's going to be, position first, and then by overall, and then by defense, and if there happens to be a tie here, we'll see who's the better scorer. And just looking at scoring right now, Bernard Gilbert, 53 scorer. He's the only player on the team that has a scoring rating above 40. So you can guarantee that Bernard Gilbert is going to be in the starting lineup and he's going to be playing a lot of minutes. And you look over here, he's a 4.5-star potential. So he seems like he might be the future of the program. Now, I know I said that about Amari Charity last year, and I kind of had to pay the price for that because he was not the best last year, especially in the conference tournament. But Bernard Gilbert looks like he might be somebody. We redshirted him last year. It looks like that might have paid off. Good offseason worth of work for him. I was not expecting him to develop into this type of player or to develop into somebody who had this type of upside. So that's interesting. Floyd, we're going to be redshirting, and then see if there's any other obvious candidates for redshirting. Aaron Wright, I guess, would be, but he's already been redshirted, and, what am I redshirting him for, right? He's not going to turn into anything special. And then you look at some of these other players, he's a senior. No point in redshirting those guys. You have Derek Rashaw here, who's kind of just begging to be redshirted in some ways. And you have these two power forwards. They're both sophomores. I could redshirt one of them, but really they're both going to be prominent to the success of this team. Blake Thompson's the most athletic player on the team, and he's a pretty good passer for a big, so that's pretty important for me with the offense I'm running. And then Amari Charity is the best defender on the team. So I think these two players are going to factor pretty prominently into the rotation, and obviously both these centers will as well. So if there's any other player that we'd redshirt, it would be Derek Rashaw. And we have, 4 guys that are definitely going to be in the rotation in the backcourt. And then in the front court, it's going to be 4 guys that are definitely going to be in the rotation. And then I would imagine that Russ Hope, with his passing ability at a 56, pretty nice fit along the wing. He's a good rebounder. I would think he probably will as well. So that's 9 deep that we're playing over Derek Rashaw. That makes me think that Derek Rashaw might not be a good fit for the lineup this year. And maybe it would be better to just go ahead and redshirt him. I'm a realist. I'm looking at the roster. I don't think we're going to make a deep tournament run this year. Don't tell any of the players. Don't tell my athletic director. But this doesn't necessarily seem like the year to put all the chips in and try to push for something special. So maybe this is a guy, if we're trying to build a future here at Hawaii, that this is a good candidate to put that red shirt tag on. I'm not going to do it just yet. I'm going to try to set the rotation and just make sure that I don't regret that. But I think that's probably what we'll do. So let's just take a peek at the depth chart here. I'll kind of show you guys what I like to do here, but I won't set the full thing. I'll get out of here with a few minutes to spare before the draft so that you guys can all get ready for that. But let's just see. So I'm going to suggest all, because I'm not really married to anything they've done here. So suggest all, and let's see what they have. So they think a starting lineup of Tennell, McInnes, Hope, Charity, and Willis is going to be the best bet for us. I'm not sure if I agree. And actually, maybe with the final few minutes, what I'm going to do here is just make some determinations. I'll show you guys what I'm thinking in terms of who we should actually start at some of these key spots. So let's look. Between Tennell and Willis, they're pretty similar players. Do either one of them have a player type? Oops, that's not going to show us there. Neither one of them do. So it really is going to come down to the ratings. They're identical shooters, pretty similar scoring, pretty similar passing, handling. The rebounding's kind of a wash. But Tennell is a better defender, and Tennell is more athletic, and Tennell is smarter, and Tennell is more disciplined. And that makes me think that Tennell might be the better bet. Now, you look at who actually knows the systems that we're running. We got a 63 proficiency for Craig Willis in the Princeton offense, And we have this white color here, so that makes it kind of hard to see his proficiency on defense. But it looks pretty similar, right? Probably around a 50 or a 60 or so on defense. And then Rick Tennell is at a 27. And I would imagine it's similar there as well. So that's going to be a tough call. And what I might end up doing, I really do value Tennell's defense over Willis's. So that might be the decision there. But I could see us starting Willis early in the year and then letting Tennell kind of pick up the system in practice and come in late in the year, given that I do like his profile a bit more. So that'll be a tough call that we'll have to make. But I think I'm probably leaning towards starting Tennell. But maybe it might even be sort of a starting with equal split minutes and then see which one of those plays better and let it go from there. Obviously, we're going to be playing Gilbert here, so that's tough news for McInnes in terms of playing at the shooting guard spot. But I might actually play both these guys because if you look, McInnes is super athletic, which is encouraging, and he's a really, really good passer. He and Gilbert are the best passers on the team along with Willis. So running this 1-3-1 with a Princeton offense, the difference between a shooting guard and a small forward is pretty negligible. It's essentially the same exact position on both sides. So I think McInnes might end up starting alongside Gilbert. And you look, they're both really good shooters from the outside. They're both really capable passers. And they're both good rebounders as well. They're both better rebounders, actually, than our two small forwards. So these small forwards might end up coming off the bench, which I think would be a fine role for them. They're not as defensively sound as these two. Not that these two are great on defense, but they're worse on defense. They're not as athletic as McInnes, and we know we're starting Gilbert. So it's looking like we'll probably do a Tennell and then Gilbert and McInnes backcourt. And then in the front court, we have some decisions to make. Now, Blake Thompson is really impressing me with his ratings here over Charity, just in terms of some of the things he can do in scoring inside. A 70 rating there, that's pretty significant. A 56 passing rating, which is really good for a big. You like to see that. He can hold his own as a rebounder. But look at this. Amari Charity, 67 on defense. That is pretty tough to beat. He's the best defender on the team. He's really good at generating steals. So it's going to be tough between these two. I probably lean Charity, and then maybe Blake Thompson is kind of a super sub off the bench who's actually capable of playing center because of that passing rating. Although he's only 6'6", so he might be a little undersized for that. Charity's 6'7", so they're both pretty firmly fours. And then the biggest battle all year, and to be honest with you, this might go back and forth during the season based on who plays better, but I'm leaning more on Morrissey. When you look at how well he can score inside with that 86 scoring rating, that's unreal. That's the highest scoring rating inside or outside of anybody on the team. We brought this guy in to play, and he's an elite scorer inside. He's the best passing big on the team, and he's identical in terms of rebounding with Willis, better at blocking shots, better at drawing fouls, more athletic. Maura Morrissey's the man. I think he's the guy that we are going to be starting this year. Victor Willis can come off the bench. We know that Victor Willis can score in spurts. We saw it last year. He was our leading scorer in most games down the stretch. But I think he's going to be a super senior off the bench. And Maura Morrissey, I'm really excited to see what he can do. It might depend on if he can learn the system fast enough because, look, 23 is not super proficient to be running our offense, which is an offense that runs through the center. So that's a little bit concerning, but man, that is going to be a tough call. I'm leaning more on Morrissey, just like I'm kind of leaning Tennell. I'm leaning the more talented guy, but we'll see. That proficiency might end up swinging the balance. I have a feeling that if we start Victor Willis, we're going to be starting his brother Craig Willis as well. And if we start Tennell, seems like that's going to be coming with Morrissey as well. So we'll see which one of those guys stand out to me. I'll take a look at that before this next episode. And for next week's episode, we'll start the season. I really want to hear from you guys in terms of what you would prefer for these upcoming streams as we're going through the season. Last year, we did it pretty, a few weeks ago, but last season, rather, we did it pretty quickly. We just simmed the entire season. I showed you guys the highlights. It was more of a recap episode If you watch reality shows, right, and it's the episode before the finale. That's kind of how we treated the season right before the tournament. So I want to hear from all of you who watch this every week. Bill and Breeze and anybody else maybe that's watching kind of quietly and not joining the chat. I want to hear from you this week. Message me. Reach out on Twitter or Discord or the forums or wherever would be easiest for you to reach out. And let us know what you want to see from these episodes. Do you want us to be streaming games on here? Do you want to see what those live streams are like and see kind of how we're tinkering with our rotations live? Do you want us to sim maybe a month at a time and look at what that looks like? Dive into the numbers there and our lineups and make adjustments that way. Do you want us to sim the entire season and then reflect on that afterwards and let you guys know what the highlights were and then jump right into another off season? Really, it's up to you because these streams are for you guys. So I really want to cater it to what you're interested in. Bree says, can we see a live game in the future? For sure. At the very least, we'll be streaming the tournament games. But I mean, it'd be down to stream the first game of the season as well. Maybe we could even just start with that and see what you guys think. But let me know. Let me know what you guys want to do in that regard. 2 things before we go. I'll do it really quick because we're bumping up on 5 o'clock here Pacific time, 8 o'clock Eastern. So subscribe to the Twitch channel if you don't already, especially if you watch every single episode and you're kind of following us diligently and religiously. We appreciate it a lot. Show us how much you appreciate what we're doing. Subscribe to us on Twitch. You get a free sub if you link your Amazon Prime account. And who doesn't have Prime these days? So definitely subscribe to us on Twitch. I will find you a timeshare in Hawaii. You have my word on that. I will find you the best timeshare that money can buy. Second thing, tomorrow, #Franchise Friday. As always, let us know what's going on in your careers, what's going on with your teams. Did you land a big recruit? Did you win the title? Did you lose the title game? Did you get bumped in the first round? Anything that's going on in your careers, let us know. I know Bill has an update with his Washington Association of the Pro Basketball Game. I'm excited to hear about that. It's fun keeping up with that team and see kind of the names of today's NBA and what they look like a few years down the line. So #Franchise Friday. Post about that tomorrow on Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, Discord, Slack, and the original forums. And if you have any ideas for things that you want to see from this stream or videos, or you have any questions, or you just want to chat about Wolverine Studios or just sports in general, you know where to find me on Twitch and Twitter @CJacksonCowart, on our Discord server, or anywhere on the Wolverine Studios forums. Appreciate you all for watching. Enjoy the draft tonight, and I'll see you next time.